Let's get your top story. 3 days, 30 hours of questioning. Congress leader Rahul Gandhi has now been summoned again on Friday by the ED in a money laundering case linked to the National Herald newspaper. Officials have said that Congress MP sought an exemption for today, which has been granted by the ED. And those are visuals of Congress leaders being detained by the police yesterday. Well, today the Congress leaders in fact have taken a break as Rahul Gandhi is going to be summoned by the ED now on Friday. Moving on, Union Minister Rajnath Singh spoke to Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee and other opposition leaders today regarding the presidential elections that are due next month. Sources have said that the government will try to form consensus with the opposition. No names were discussed at this particular stage. The other leaders, Mr. Singh has spoken to include Congress's Mallikarjun Kharge as well as Naveen Patnaik, along with Akhilesh Yadav. Mr. Singh also spoke to one ally, that's Bihar's Chief Minister Nitish Kumar, whose relationship with the BJP has hit a rough patch since the 2020 assembly elections. And at the behest of Mamata Banerjee, a group of opposition leaders met in Delhi on Wednesday to discuss the issue. 5 key parties, however, were missing from the meet. Sharad Pawar's name was proposed, but he has turned down that very proposal. My colleague Himachal has the details.
An opposition show of strength led by Mamata Banerjee for the presidential polls. The West Bengal Chief Minister proposed the name of 81 years old NCP Chief Sharad Pawar right at the beginning. But the man who is holding the Maharashtra coalition together declined, saying he still had a political innings to play.
I personally, even all the members of the meeting, they unanimously suggested Sharad Pawar's name. Unanimously. If Sharad Pawar is agreed, is okay, but he said he is not interested. And if not, then the name should be come from the political parties. They will consult Sharadji, consult with others, and then it will be decided.
Sources say none of the other parties had any names to propose. And towards the end of the meeting, the West Bengal Chief Minister suggested the names of former Governor Gopal Gandhi and National Conference Chief Farooq Abdullah as potential opposition presidential candidates. Sources say there was chaos at the meeting when Mamata proposed a resolution against the Modi government. Several parties said it should have been circulated earlier and that this meeting should stick to the presidential polls agenda. The opposition leaders will meet again on the 20th or 21st of June to decide on this.
The subcommittee has not been finalized. Only all the leaders of the parties have decided and requested Khargeji, Mamata Banerjee and Sharad Pawarji to contact each and every leader for the next meeting.
But if the meeting was meant to be a show of strength for the opposition, it was not an ideal start, with key parties staying away or not being invited. 22 parties were called, but there were 5 key absentees, including the TRS and the Aam Aadmi Party. Fence-sitters like the Biju Janata Dal, which have helped the BJP in the past, also stayed away. The elephant in the room turning out to be the Congress, in a weak position electorally, yet still the largest national party. Most of the parties, including Mamata Banerjee's TMC, are fighting the Congress on home ground. The TRS raised strong objections to the Congress being invited, saying there was no question of sharing any platform with the party. Aam Aadmi Party and the Akali Dal also stayed away. The Congress and the left attended today's meeting despite their frosty ties with Mamata. But opposition unity is clearly easier said than done. With key players staying away from the opposition, it's a tough task to take on the NDA in the presidential polls with the numbers clearly in the BJP's favour. With Himanshu Shekhar, Usama Shah for NDTV.
Switching tracks, the family of 30-year-old Rajasekar, who died in police custody in Chennai, is refusing to collect his body. They demand the arrest of the 5 policemen who have been suspended. The police claim that the man involved in more than 20 criminal cases developed a seizure during his questioning and could not be saved despite medical help. The family claims that they found injuries on the man's body. This is the second custodial death in Chennai since April. We have my colleague Sam joining us on the phone line. Sam, in fact, that post-mortem report is now out and it suggests that there was no police excess. So they are trying to say, that's what the post-mortem report is suggesting, that those injuries that were found on his body were not the reason for his death. How many injuries did he have on his body?
Divya, according to the post-mortem report, there were 4 injuries on his body, and these were caused in varying times between 24 hours to 5 days before his death. And the police interpret this as a clear indication of no police excess, saying that whatever injuries are on his body were caused before he came into police custody. They point out that he was under police custody only for 10 hours, but these injuries were caused much before that. And at the moment, it appears that the family may collect the body if the police accept to share the video recording of the post-mortem. They may either share it to the court or, if legally permitted, they may share it to the family. But there is a kind of a softening of stand by the family after the post-mortem report. As you said, this is the second such custodial death in Chennai since April. And in this case, 5 police personnel, including an inspector and a sub-inspector, have been suspended, but the family demands their arrest. Earlier in the case, where there was another custodial death of a person who was in possession of drugs, the police had booked them for murder and arrested them. But in this case, at the moment at least, they may not arrest. And there are 2 kinds of probes going on, one by the magistrate, another by the CBCI wing of the Tamil Nadu police. Divya.
Right, Sam, so the family refusing to collect the body, how long has it already been since the body has been there at the police station?
It's close to a week, actually, but the family is certainly fighting for what they call their rights to get into the truth, to get justice for the loss of life. And it's also a kind of a pattern you see in such custodial deaths. The families would refuse as guided by their legal counsel. But when we spoke to the family members, certainly there is a kind of a change of heart now after the post-mortem report suggesting the police may not have committed any kind of excess as they originally believed. But we'll have to wait and see how they formally respond in the course of the day-to-day.
Right, Sam, we will keep tracking the story and keep coming back to you for more on that. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Moving on, nearly 7 years after the murder of a national-level shooter in Chandigarh, the CBI on Wednesday arrested Kalyani Singh, the daughter of Himachal Pradesh's High Court's acting Chief Justice Sabina. The murder was a result of a relationship that had gone sour. According to the CBI, Kalyani Singh and Sippy Sidhu were in a close relationship. She wanted to marry Sippy Sidhu, but that proposal was rejected by his parents. Sippy Sidhu then leaked some of her photographs to her parents and friends, which embarrassed her family. And on the day of his murder, that is the 20th of September, there's evidence confirming her presence with Sippy Sidhu in the evening. Investigation has further revealed that one unknown assailant and Kalyani Singh killed Sippy Sidhu by using firearms. And this, after 7 years, is the first arrest made in Sippy Sidhu's death. Moving on, India said on Wednesday that it would reserve part of its next generation telecom spectrum for private in-house networks as the government announced a 5G auction to take place by the end of July. How will 5G change our lives? Let's listen in.
5G could be a reality in India soon, as the government has given its final approval to a proposal for directly allocating airwaves to enterprises, paving the way for them to operate private 5G networks. Now, this means 5G services will be rolled out soon. A total of 72 gigahertz of spectrum for 20 years will be put to auction to be held by the end of July. Now, the government says the time is not far away when India is going to emerge as a leading country in the field of 5G technology and, in fact, the upcoming 6G technology. Now, what's in it for you and me? What will change in our lives? Well, a lot. 5G is expected to be 10 times faster than 4G. If it takes you 10 minutes to download a movie or a game now, it'll be done in just a minute when 5G rolls out. The government says upcoming 5G services can create new age businesses, and bonus, it could be good for the planet as well. US telecom company Verizon says 5G can reduce up to 90% of our power consumption consumption, and you might not have to even travel abroad for surgeries, as instant data transmission and analysis could enable remote surgeries with the surgeon being far away from the patient. Robots and machines could be operated from miles away, and this also paves way for human-less automatic cars in the future. Now, a necessary step towards making 5G a reality has been taken today. Country's three main telecom companies, Vi, Airtel and Jio, are expected to participate in the bidding. Whoever wins will get the spectrum license to provide 5G access across India. Experts say 5G will reach many more people than 4G and could be a reality for India in the next 1.5 years.
That it will cover a larger number of people. Say, for example, in an area where 4G will connect 4,000 people, 5G will connect 40,000 people. My hunch is that it will take between 1.5 to 2 years.
Let's get you a COVID update. In the country, we are seeing a rise of cases of COVID-19, especially in Delhi. The positivity rate has almost doubled in a matter of a week. There you can see how the positivity rate has gone up, and it's just taken about 1 week for that rise in cases in the national capital. Also, we are seeing a COVID spike also in Delhi, which is not just Delhi but also Mumbai, which has reported 2,293 cases, and that is the highest that we're seeing in almost 5 months. A 4-month-old newborn baby has also died of COVID, and when we talk about the positivity rate in the national capital, that's crossed about 7%. Mumbai's positivity rate is up from 9% to 13% in a matter of a week. And also, like we're seeing the uptake in cases, there's also uptake in cases amongst children. Shrija gets us this report.
ये रिपीट एक्सरे हमने 2 घंटे के बाद में एक्सरे किया, जिस एक्सरे में पूरी की पूरी तरीके से फेफड़ा वाइट आउट हो चुका है उसका, और कंडीशन काफ़ी ज़्यादा डिटोरिएट होने लगी थी, और हमने उसका कोविड टेस्ट भी किया था जो कि कोविड एंटीजन पॉजिटिव आया उसका, इसलिए फिर हमने कोविड RT-PCR भी भेजा, दैट ऑल्सो केम पॉजिटिव.
Dr. Irfan Ali, a pediatrician associated with major hospitals in Mumbai, shows the X-ray report of a 4-month-old COVID-positive boy and explains he died 6 days ago after developing sudden breathing problems. The child's mother had taken both doses of the vaccine.
बेबी के जो सिम्टम्स थे जनरली जो देखे जाते हैं कि कफ, कोल्ड, फीवर, इस तरीके के बिल्कुल भी सिम्टम्स नहीं थे ये बेबी को. सिम्टम्स रात में जस्ट ब्रेथलेसनेस स्टार्ट हुआ और विद इन 6 to 8 आवर्स में बच्चे काफ़ी कंडीशन खराब हुआ और एक्सपायर हो गया.
Doctors say that for the past 2 weeks, children with fever, vomiting and shortness of breath have been turning up at hospitals, and around 4 out of 10 are found to be COVID positive. Even in bigger hospitals like Wadia Children's Hospital, Fortis, Hinduja, the number of COVID-infected children has increased in the last 2 weeks. But most of the children are with mild symptoms.
Parents अपने आप बच्चों की टेस्ट कर रहे हैं क्योंकि उनको कोविड पॉजिटिव हुआ है इसी कारण से. But मोस्टली बच्चों को असिम्टोमेटिक्स, मतलब उनको कोई भी सिम्टम्स नहीं है, उनमें कोई फीचर्स नहीं है, या बुखार भी है तो उसकी मात्रा कम है, तो ऐसे नंबर्स काफी ज्यादा है बच्चों में, और इसीलिए अपने को कोई चिंता करने की जरूरत नहीं है.
Around 21,000 new COVID cases have been reported in Mumbai in a month, and about 9% of patients are said to be under the age of 19.
हमने अराउंड 15 से 20 बच्चे जिनको कोविड संक्रमण हुआ है ये देखा है. मेजॉरिटी बच्चों में माइल्ड इलनेसेस ही हुई है, जैसे उनकी लक्षण है सर्दी, खांसी, बुखार.
In the national capital of Delhi, the infection rate is doubling, and COVID cases has been seeing a sharp rise with numbers going up 5 times in a week. On June 6th, there were around 247 corona cases in Delhi, while the infection rate was at 3.47%. And a week later, on June 14th, new cases have risen to 1,118, while the infection rate has gone up to nearly 6.50%. Among the states that show a sharp rise in cases is the southern state Karnataka. Nearly 30 students have tested positive at 2 different schools in Dasrahalli, north part of Bengaluru. Speaking exclusively to NDTV, Commissioner for Health D. Randeep says that it's not a cause of concern.
These children have been completely isolated now, and most of them are asymptomatic.
With the rise in cases of COVID numbers across the country, the worrying trend here is with children as young as 10-year-olds catching COVID. In fact, most of the states have reported huge numbers of kids
catching COVID, and this seems to be even more worrying because now summer vacations have ended, so schools have resumed classes. But however, the government says that it's very premature at this point in time to just go back to complete online mode. With Pooja and Saurabh, Shrija for NDTV.
And moving on, the Supreme Court will today hear a petition against demolitions in Uttar Pradesh. A Muslim organization called Ulama-e-Hind had approached the Supreme Court seeking direction to initiate action against those officials who are responsible for allegedly illegally demolishing of houses. That plea also seeks appropriate direction to the Uttar Pradesh government to ensure that no further demolitions are carried out. Let's just go across to my colleague Sukirti, who is in fact joining us on the phone line. Sukirti, what does the plea say? And have there been other pleas too in the Supreme Court over the same issue?
Well, Divya, firstly, what this petition says is that one, it wants that accountability should be fixed on those officials who carried out these demolitions allegedly without any due course of law being followed, without notices being issued before ample time was given to these people who the houses belong to, so that they could get a chance to respond on these notices. And then it wants a stay on any further demolitions, and if they do end up taking place, there should be a proper legal process that should be followed. The petition also points out that UP Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath himself had said soon after the protest that anybody who's been involved in violence, their houses would be razed. Now, as far as other petitions on this demolition issue are concerned, there has been one that was filed in the past over the Jahangirpuri Delhi demolition, and on that issue the Supreme Court had not only issued notices to the centre and the North Delhi Municipal Corporation, but had also ordered a status quo. And that's something that the Jamiat Ulema-e-Hind petition also points out, that at a time when this issue is already being dealt by the top court of the country, then how can the government just go ahead without following any process of law and going around demolishing houses like this?
Right. So, Sukirti, what has been the Supreme Court's stance so far on demolitions?
Well, yes, as I pointed out that in Delhi they had ordered a status quo when the demolitions in Jahangirpuri area of Delhi had been carried out, and they had also issued notices to the centre as well as the North Delhi Municipal Corporation. Also, just to quickly point out that recently a letter was also written by former Supreme Court judges as well as several top lawyers to the Chief Justice of India, saying that the Supreme Court should also take suo motu cognizance of the entire issue of demolitions across the country. However, we are yet to hear anything from the Supreme Court on any suo motu cognizance. But yes, as far as Jamiat Ulema-e-Hind's petition is concerned, it is going to be heard today.
Right, Sukirti, thank you so much. We will keep tracking the story and keep coming back to you for more on this today. For now, we're slipping into a very short break. On the other side, we'll get you the monsoon fury in the northeastern part of the country where it's been raining heavily. More showers to follow. That and a whole lot more. Welcome back. Let's get you the latest from the monsoon, which is focusing on the northeastern part of the country. Heavy showers have been noted and they continue to batter normal life in Assam and Meghalaya. A rain red alert warning has been issued for yet another day, which means heavy to very heavy showers. In fact, extremely heavy showers are expected in the course of the day. When we talk about Cherrapunji in Meghalaya, that's recorded 811.6 millimeters of rainfall in a matter of 24 hours, which is the highest rainfall that's been recorded in the month of June since 1995. So in almost 30 years, this is the highest rainfall that we are seeing in Cherrapunji, which is also known and is known for the kind of rainfall it receives during the monsoon season. And this is just the very beginning as far as monsoon is concerned. It hasn't even covered most parts of the country. When we take into account the kind of rainfall we've seen in Assam's Dimazao district, people have been asked to restrict their movements and educational institutions have remained shut. Well, also, in fact, fresh landslides were reported from various parts of Guwahati for the second consecutive day on Wednesday, and this is due to the incessant rain. Well, more showers are to follow. Let's just get you a sense of what it's like on the ground with my colleague Rajnath.
हम लोग उम्मीद जता रहे हैं कि इस क्षेत्र में, हमारे नॉर्थ ईस्टर्न क्षेत्र में, यानी कि अरुणाचल प्रदेश, असम, मेघालय, नागालैंड, मणिपुर, मिजोरम और त्रिपुरा के अधिकांश स्थानों पर थंडरस्टॉर्म, लाइटनिंग के साथ साथ भारी से अति भारी वर्षा हो सकती है। इवन ये एक दो स्थानों पर अत्यंत भारी वर्षा भी होने की प्रबल संभावना है। हमारे नॉर्थ ईस्टर्न क्षेत्र में विशेषकर 15 तारीख से लेकर के 19 जून 2022 तक ऐसी स्थिति रह सकती है।
Although the rains had weakened yesterday, and in fact yesterday the rainfall in Assam was much lesser than what it was experienced on Monday and Tuesday, but today once again right from the morning it's raining hard, and this is going to be a concern not only for the government but also for the people in Assam. Remember, there have been waterlogging in many parts of Guwahati on Tuesday, which actually the situation had improved yesterday, but again the rains are back, and if you can hear behind me, there are pumps, water pumps continuously pumping out water from the streets so that the waterlogging does not take place. However, if it rains, then the water bodies into which the water is being pumped out would also get flooded, and that causes massive waterlogging that we have seen. In fact, the educational institutions in Guwahati as well as many other parts of the state, particularly in Lower Assam and in Dima Hasao district, would remain closed as a precautionary measure. Even as Met Department, remember, has issued a red alert for more and extreme heavy rains for Assam and Meghalaya. In Meghalaya, the Jayanta Hill police has posted pictures of massive landslides and flash floods on the national highway, which has been cleared. So the road link between Meghalaya and Assam that also leads to Tripura is off and on. It's not completely open, and because it has been disrupted by landslides. Also remember, in Lower Assam, in Tamulpur area, there have been flash floods. Now also because there are a lot of rains in upper reaches of the hills in Meghalaya as well as in Arunachal Pradesh, many of the dams might open up water, they might open up the gates, so that might lead to flash floods in areas which are lying low, particularly in Assam. Also the river Manas is flowing above danger level, so therefore there is a situation which is once again building up with the rains once again hitting hard from the morning. Also, given the fact that the overall the rain alert for northeast would remain till the 19th of this month. Therefore perhaps the people here are bracing for tougher times.
And with that, we're stepping into a very short break. On the other side, we'll get you the very latest from Ukraine, where the United States has offered additional $1 billion in military aid to Ukraine. Now, a day after the centre launched Agnipath, a radical recruitment plan for the armed forces, protests have erupted at various parts of the country, with youngsters accusing the government of making a fool of them. Protests broke out in Bihar's Muzaffarpur as well as Buxar on Wednesday, with the protesters asking that what will they be doing after 4 years. The new recruitment plan aims to cut down country's, this is the government's massive salary and pension bills, and also free up funds for arms procurement. The new policy has drawn criticism and questions from several quarters, including a section of veterans. Critics have been arguing that after a 4-year tenure will hit fighting spirit as far as the ranks are concerned and can also make them risk averse. So that is why they're protesting in many parts of the country. And 3 days and 30 hours of questioning, Congress leader Rahul Gandhi has been summoned again, and he will have to be at the ED office tomorrow, that's Friday. This is in connection to the money laundering case linked to the National Herald newspaper. Officials say that the MP of Congress sought exemption for Thursday, and that's what was allowed. This is after several top leaders of the Congress, including KC Venugopal, Bhupesh Baghel as well as Randeep Surjewala, said that the police barged into their headquarters, and that's when they were detained. Sachin Pilot was also shoved into a bus and taken to the Narela police station, where he was detained even after Rahul Gandhi in fact left Enforcement Directorate office yesterday last night, and this is in connection with that case. Enforcement Directorate is questioning the Gandhi's dealings with the Young India company which took over AJL, which runs the National Herald newspaper. The Young India took over 800 crores in assets of AJL, and according to the Income Tax Department, allotment, they should be considered as an asset of Young India shareholders Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi. Sonia Gandhi will also be questioned by the Enforcement Directorate. Right now, she is at the Gangaram Hospital as she had been detected with COVID-19. Union Minister Rajnath Singh spoke to Bengal's Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee and other opposition leaders regarding the presidential elections that are due next month. Sources are saying that the government will try to form a consensus as far as the opposition is concerned. However, no names have been discussed at this very stage. The other leaders that Mr. Singh has spoken to include Congress's Mallikarjun Kharge, also Naveen Patnaik, and from the Samajwadi Party, it's Akhilesh Yadav. Mr. Singh also spoke to one ally, that's Nitish Kumar, whose relationship with the BJP somehow seems to have hit a rough patch, and that is since the 2020 Assembly elections. At the behest of Mamata Banerjee, a group of opposition leaders met in Delhi on Wednesday to discuss the issue. 5 key parties, however, were missing from the meet. Sharad Pawar's name that has been proposed, he, however, has turned down that proposal. My colleague Himachal gets us the details.
An opposition show of strength led by Mamata Banerjee for the presidential polls. The West Bengal Chief Minister proposed the name of 81 years old NCP chief Sharad Pawar right at the beginning. But the man who is holding the Maharashtra coalition together declined, saying he still had a political innings to play.
I personally, even all the members of the meeting, they unanimously suggested Sharad Pawar's name. Unanimously. If Sharad Pawar is agreed, is okay, but he said he is not interested. And if not, then the name should be come from the political parties. They will consult Sharadji, consult with others, and then it will be decided.
Sources say none of the other parties had any names to propose. And towards the end of the meeting, the West Bengal Chief Minister suggested the names of former Governor Gopal Gandhi and National Conference Chief Farooq Abdullah as potential opposition presidential candidates. Sources say there was chaos at the meeting when Mamata proposed a resolution against the Modi government. Several parties said it should have been circulated earlier and that this meeting should stick to the presidential polls agenda. The opposition leaders will meet again on the 20th or 21st of June to decide on this.
No, the subcommittee has not been finalized. Only all the leaders of the parties have decided, requested Kharge-ji, Mamata Banerjee and Sharad Pawarji to contact each and every leader for the next meeting.
But if the meeting was meant to be a show of strength for the opposition, it was not an ideal start, with key parties staying away or not being invited. 22 parties were called, but there were 5 key absentees, including the TRS and the Aam Aadmi Party. Fence-sitters like the Biju Janata Dal, which have helped the BJP in the past, also stayed away. The elephant in the room turning out to be the Congress, in a weak position electorally, yet still the largest national party. Most of the parties, including Mamata Banerjee's TMC, are fighting the Congress on home ground. The TRS raised strong objections to the Congress being invited, saying there was no question of sharing any platform with the party. Aam Aadmi Party and the Akali Dal also stayed away. The Congress and the left attended today's meeting despite their frosty ties with Mamata. But opposition unity is clearly easier said than done. With key players staying away from the opposition, it's a tough task to take on the NDA in the presidential polls with the numbers clearly in the BJP's favour. With Himanshu Shekhar, Usama Shah for NDTV.
Welcome back. The Federal Reserve announced the most aggressive interest rate increase in nearly 30 years, raising the benchmark borrowing rate by 0.75% points on Wednesday as it battles against surging inflation. The Fed's policy setting the Federal Open Market Committee has reaffirmed that it remains strongly committed to returning inflation to its 2% objective and expects to continue to raise the key rate. Sakshi Bajaj gets us the details.
Federal Reserve has raised its benchmark interest rate by 0.75 of a percentage point to battle surging inflation. However, what is worrying is the projection of a slowing economy and rising unemployment in months to come. Remember, US inflation is at a 4-decade high, and this rate hike is the biggest made by the US Central Bank since 1994. This has, of course, come after little progress has been made in the fight and the battle against U.S. inflation. However, we have already seen at the moment the U.S. stocks give up gains after the Fed rate hike.
I will begin with one overarching message. We at the Fed understand the hardship that high inflation is causing. We're strongly committed to bringing inflation back down, and we're moving expeditiously to do so. We have both the tools we need and the resolve that it will take to restore price stability on behalf of American families and businesses. It is essential that we bring inflation down if we are to have a sustained period of strong labor market conditions that benefit all. From the standpoint of our congressional mandate to promote maximum employment and price stability, the current picture is plain to see. The labor market is extremely tight, and inflation is much too high. Against this backdrop, today the Federal Open Market Committee raised its policy interest rate by 0.75 of a percentage point and anticipates that ongoing increases in that rate will be appropriate. In addition, we are continuing the process of significantly reducing the size of our balance sheet.
Let's get you the latest from Ukraine. And the United States has announced that it will send an additional $1 billion in military aid to Ukraine. As America and its allies provide longer-range weapons, they say that they can make a difference in a fight where Ukrainian forces are outnumbered and outgunned by their Russian invaders. The President of the United States, Joe Biden, and his top national security leaders said that the United States is moving as fast as possible to get critical weapons, and this is to fight even as Ukrainian officials protest that they need more and faster weapons in order to survive.
The President also obviously took this opportunity to inform President Zelensky that we're announcing today, I think you saw, $1 billion in additional security assistance to support Ukraine's armed forces in their brave defense of their country. Now that includes a drawdown of security assistance valued up to $350 million. That's where the Department of Defense pulls from their stocks. As well as $650 million in equipment that's provided through the Ukraine Security Assistance Initiative funds. That's where the Pentagon will go out and procure material in that amount to then just provide directly to Ukraine. So there are two different buckets of that $1 billion. Now this is the 12th time that President Biden has authorized presidential drawdowns to help Ukraine defend its democracy, and that brings the total amount of security assistance that we provided to Ukraine to approximately $5.6 billion just since Russia launched its assault in late February, and then approximately $6.3 billion since the beginning of the Biden-Harris administration.
And President Zelensky has released, these comments as far as those telephone calls go with Prime Minister Boris Johnson as well as President Joe Biden. The Ukrainian president said that the United Nations has announced a new $1 billion support package for the country. He said that this support is especially important for the Donbas region. Zelensky said Britain and Denmark have announced a special donors conference that will be held in Copenhagen in August. Let's listen.
Провів сьогодні важливу розмову з президентом Америки Байденом. Сполучені Штати оголосили про нове посилення нашого захисту, новий пакет підтримки на $1 мільярд. Це береговий захист, це артилерія, сучасні ракетні системи. Будемо чекати. Вдячні за цю підтримку, вона особливо вагома передусім для нашої оборони на Донбасі. Вдячні і за лідерство в мобілізації допомоги усіх партнерів. Є й новий пакет гуманітарної підтримки для України на $250 мільярда США.
And Russia's ambassador to the United Nations says that the U.S. supplied artillery that is being used to kill civilians in the Donetsk region of Ukraine. Let's listen in.
On June 1st, the U.S. Undersecretary of Defense announced that the U.S. has transferred to Ukraine 108 M777 howitzers and 220,155 millimeter artillery rounds. These long-range armaments enabled the Ukrainian army to strike beyond the line of contact into residential areas with no military presence. And now this Western artillery is killing innocent people. I would like to say to the Western countries supplying weaponry to Ukraine, the blood of civilians is on your hands. The tragedy in Donetsk confirms once again that you are fighting a proxy war with Russia with the hands of Ukrainians.
And a special education teacher in Puducherry has transformed the lives of more than 6,000 children with special needs, including autistic children. Many of them were turned away by conventional schools where they studied earlier. But thanks to the love, passion and expertise of Bhuvana over the last 3 decades, many are scaling new heights. She is a Lottoland Aaj Ka Sitara, and Lottoland will support her cause with a cash incentive of 1 lakh rupees.
Meet Dr. Bhuvana Vasudevan, a special educator in Puducherry, teaching special needs children, mainly those with dyslexia and autism. It's a demanding job as these children with special needs take a longer time to learn. It requires patience and persistence. But Bhuvana is passionate. She adopts different techniques for different children. She gave up a lucrative job and set up her own Bridges Learning Vidyalaya so she could make a difference in the lives of children with special needs.
I never used to complain to the parent, your child is not doing well, your child is not studying. And we know the child has problem and we only have to find a solution and make him to go to the next level. See, that should be the role of a teacher.
Vijayalakshmi's son Kasi Prasad is autistic. He was shown the door by a conventional school where he was in class 6. After 7 years under Bhuvana's care at Bridges, he's all set to join college. Kasi has studied business mathematics. He wants to become like Mukesh Ambani.
To become like Ambani, what are the steps you're taking now?
Planning, organizing, directing, controlling, motivation, staffing and coordinating.
22-year-old Al Mubin's parents never expected that their child with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder would pass class 10. He could neither write nor read. But being schooled by Bhuvana for 9 years changed everything. Now he is pursuing his MBA at a central university and plans to go abroad to work.
For every person, she teaches in a different way. So that's how, as a student, I managed to get.
Not far away, another alumnus Vigneshwaran's family is happy. For the dyslexic child who suffered from low self-esteem a decade ago, Bhuvana's school turned into a springboard. After class 10, he earned a diploma, worked for a few years, innovated a bit along the way, and now he is finishing his B.Tech. He has even designed a contactless vessel cleaning machine for restaurants.
My Bhuvana ma'am is next to my mom. She developed me my confidence level. My long-term career plan to be an industrialist.
Experts say 15 to 17% of children have special needs for education. A bulk of them are from poor backgrounds. There's also a dearth of qualified and committed teachers. So passionate for the cause, Dr. Bhuvana has touched lives of hundreds of students over a quarter century. Now she needs help to transform lives of many other children. At the Bridges Learning Vidyalaya in Puducherry, with Suresh, Sam Daniel, for NDTV.
I sincerely appreciate Lottoland for encouraging our services in the field of learning disabilities.